Welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Another exciting show, another exciting guest. Let me tell you where we're going to go today with today's show. Tell you about regeneration. And let me tell you what regeneration means. It means taking information or products or anything and re-putting them back into use. Let's go deeper. I didn't know this, but there's so much food that's being wasted in this country. And I wonder, I never really asked myself, like what happens to all this unused resource? Because that's what it is. It's a resource. And then I remember as a child, guy across the street from us, Mr. Thiemann, would always go to the store and he would go to the dumpsters and he would pull stuff out of the dumpsters like lettuce, bread, strawberries. And I remember telling my mom, I said, hey, I don't think we want to get nothing from this guy anymore. He goes to the dumpsters and gets stuff. And I'm thinking now that I'm older, it's funny how society, how the universe plays, everything full circle. Because that question was never really answered, like, why did this guy do this and why do we do this? But more importantly, why do we waste? Why do we waste so much stuff? This was the same question that I'm sure our guest had asked himself. So without further ado, let's welcome all the way from Michigan, the one, the only, Mr. Roger Cargill to the show.
Thank you, Andre. I appreciate you having me, and you hit it on the head. I mean,
Really?
It is about circular economy and regeneration. We, as especially Americans, waste a lot of food, waste a lot of products, we have a lot of one-time use stuff. Think about a water bottle. That to me is the defining item as a single-use item.
Really?
And it started, if you think way back 40 years, it started back when we started with a disposable lighter, right?
Yeah.
Just a simple lighter.
You bringing back memories. Disposable lighter, where
Well,
you can see the butane in it.
Yeah, it's the it's the trek we got to where everything else ended up to be disposable. And where does it have to go if it's called disposable? It goes in that black plastic bag that you push out to the curb, and it just disappears.
And nobody,
but it really doesn't.
Yeah, everybody asks what happened. But before we get into this journey with your new company, Finite Phoenix, tell the viewers a little bit about you, because we was talking off camera, and your story is one of resilience, definitely that beast mindset, but it's filled with emotion. It's filled with a little bit of trauma. It's filled with recognizing who you were and what you have become. Wow, did I go there? Because that's a phoenix, right?
Right? It's revival.
Yeah. Tell the viewers a little bit about who you are, Roger.
Wow. I'm 61 years old. I have wrapped my head and my life around never saying no to an experience. So I've ridden bulls, I've roped calves, I've rodeoed, I've jumped off of mountains, I've flown in stunt planes.
Are you crazy?
I have never.
Are you crazy?
Well, I'm an ice hockey goalie, so all my buddies say, yeah. Who wants 90-mile-an-hour pucks thrown at you?
Yeah.
But I just think, I don't know where it came from or how I got it, but I just never wanted to say no to an experience. And my kids laugh at me about it because they'll go, okay, what have you done? Well, I had a orange and purple mohawk when I was in college.
Really?
And I had earrings, and you wouldn't think of that of me right now. But don't say no, because if you say no, you lose out on an opportunity. And I think that's
Have you
where
lost
Finite
out on
Phoenix was
opportunities
created.
before? Have you lost out on opportunities before by saying no? Now that you look back and
I don't know, Andre.
don't
stupidly
hold back.
I stupidly say yes to everything.
Okay.
I remember a crazy situation where my buddies were going, "Hey, look, there's this wild cow milking contest. You want to do it?" Hell yeah! Beat the hell out of me and my 3 friends, but we had a ball.
Do you worry about the consequences to your actions?
No. Think about that. If you worry about what's going to happen all the time,
You're going
to miss out on something.
Yeah. When you talk about the fact that you have a difficult time, you a yes person. When has yes ever gotten you into trouble?
All the time.
Give me an example.
Give me an example.
One that let me rephrase this. One that shift your way of thinking. That really had a profound moment on you. That shift that narrative.
You know, I have always thought myself as a very egocentric person. It's always been about me. And my mom and my sister were in failing health. And I didn't think I could be a caregiver. I didn't think I could have the empathy. But when put in that spot to learn how to talk to somebody with Alzheimer's dementia, it changes you. You know, and I fought it for a long time. What
do you mean you fought it?
Well, I didn't really want to admit that my sister had Alzheimer's dementia. I didn't want to believe my mom was always, I thought to me, would outlive me. She's a tough old girl. And, you know, I fought it going, I just don't want to believe it. When I internalized it and I believed it, I spoke to them differently. I understood them differently. I showed more patience and empathy. That wasn't in me before. So I think that was an odd emotional experience that came about through a form of loss.
I'm sorry for that. And, you know, your family, so I know both of them, and I know what that was like firsthand. But you talked about something let's use this word, egocentric. How many individuals actually probably still suffer from that and fail to realize that kind of mindset can be very catastrophic? Just imagine if those unfortunate things have not have happened. What do you think? I know this is a hypothesis, but how do you think your life would have been had you kept that egocentric mentality? As it relates to dealing with people, family, and business is what I'm saying.
Sure. I think there's an amount of shame that comes up when you look back and say, my ego entered the room before I did.
Damn, that's deep.
You know, so I think that the idea of identifying that you're hiding your real personality behind your ego, and when your real personality comes out and you like it and you appreciate the words you use and you craft words to be more intentional instead of maybe intentionally hurting people with your words.
I'm going to ask you a question. You got my mind going. So let me go back a little bit. We share stories about our upbringing. And I share with you, you know, the situation with my father. Mm-hmm. So my question goes here. Did you think the egocentric or the Superman syndrome or the Spider-Man syndrome took place because of something that went down in your childhood that put you into survival mode? The ego personality became your survival mechanism.
Oh, most definitely. I spent a lot of time thinking about this. It's not something that just is written in a book and you read it and you go, oh, that's me. You know, my dad was a bit of a bully to both the family and especially my mom. And I love my mom. And my mom was tougher than nails, but not that tough. Right. And so I learned that I didn't like bullies. And my ego was a way to protect myself from being a bully and protect others from being bullied.
When we talk about our upbringing, and I remember, like I was telling you, sharing a moment with my father, the pain that I went through. I don't think I walked around with the egocentric thing. I think I walked around with the why. Why do I need to do this? You know, what's the end game for me? Who's going to be there for me? That was pretty much my biggest thing, because I had no one. You know, I mean, we have our siblings, but good, get real. If they're around the same age you are, what can my grandmother do? You know what I mean? She's at the time probably like in her 50s and 60s, and I'm now asking myself, how do I become a man? You know, in a society where this color right here doesn't open up, you know, a lot of doors. Who do I really confide in? Sports became an outlet for me, but not a team sport, because I realized at the end of the day, I can't really rely on those people. You know what I mean? But I remember, like I said, sharing with you, talking to my dad about the hurt that I felt. Remember I told you I took his clothes.
Yes.
I didn't take them out of nothing but just confused, lost, and was trying to get attention. You mentioned your dad being a bully. Did you ever confront your father and the things that you was going through?
I was pretty young when my dad died. I was 26, you know, and he spent a year and a half at home, and my job was to take care of him all night long, where my mom took care of him all day long, and I was doing college at the same time. So on his deathbed, you know, maybe 2 or 3 months before he died, I let him have it with both barrels. I don't think it was the right thing to do, but the anger of a 26-year-old and watching what years of that had happened, you know, I said, you know, I'm not here to take care of you. I'm here to take care of mom and make sure mom doesn't get overworked. So I said, I really don't care what happens to you. So that, I'm sure that was very hurtful, but it was that teenage angst and the young kid angst that you have. Yeah. And you think that that's the answer. I'm not sure it was.
Wow. When you look back on that, being even more mature now, some people say that when we do things like that, we have survival remorse because we wish we could take back the things, but I don't think that's the case. That's how you felt at that time.
It's absolutely how I felt at the same time. And when you don't, if I had repressed that, I would be more concerned with repressing it than I would with letting it out. I mean, he probably died within 3 months after that, you know? So it was a great care for my mom, a great care and love for my mom, and watching his activities, which weren't positive for my mom. And I saw that as being a bully in my life.
When did the things change for you? What was that defining moment? And then we're going to get into the Phoenix, because I'm trying to take the viewers, like we talked about, through these different evolutions of your life, because that's what your company is branded about, taking something that is God-given, which is yourself, and putting it in this device and starting something brand new, a complete new transformation. When did the transformation really take place for you? Was it during the loss of, you know, your mom and your sister, when you had to be a caregiver, when you dropped that shield? How did it really change you all the way around?
I think when you have somebody, my mom died at 99. She died 5 days after her birthday. Had a big party for her during COVID. Of course, everybody was in the neighborhood just driving by. I think when you have a loss, and it was double because my sister was diagnosed very young, and so I was seeing a double loss coming at me. And when you have a life where you always think your mom's going to outlive you, all of a sudden that gets changed. It throws your world upside down. And you really have to reevaluate who you are as a person. And like my company name, Finite Phoenix, you have to rebirth yourself, regrow yourself. And if you regrow yourself as the same individual, you haven't learned anything. And so I learned that I had empathy. I had caring, and I wasn't as callous and as egotistical as long as I didn't want to be. That was a choice to make.
It makes you wonder when we do a self-evaluation of ourselves, when we go into deep thought, when we have that moment of clarity. Do you ever sit back and wonder, was I really that bad of a person? But this is even more funny. Check this out, Roger. What about the people that was supposed to be your friends that probably knew you was a dick and egotistic and blah, 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 that because you do a self-inventory, even myself, you got to go back and look at those people and go, wow, was I really that bad? I'm sorry.
You better. You better spend some time thinking about the path and the road that you created behind you.
Yeah.
Because that's where our lessons are learned.
I think a lot of us don't do that, though.
I think a lot of people will make the same mistake over and over.
Yeah.
And because they don't value history, and they don't value the road you've traveled, So I have gone back and to great friends of mine and said, sorry for being a dick.
What did they do? Did they go, wow, you finally realized
it's about goddamn time you just realized that. I when I say I decisions made were based around what I wanted, not what the group or my friends wanted. And I always look at my life as a bullseye. I have very few friends in the center of that bullseye. Mm. And in my previous life, my significant other was one ring out of the bullseye. And my best friends who had been there through thick and thin were in the middle. That doesn't work. Mm. So
why it doesn't work?
Because the one you love should be the center of life.
Okay.
Period. End of story. And I love my best friends. But to treat them, best friends treat them as differently or better than your significant other just is not right.
You mentioned your core values, because that's part of being a Phoenix. Somebody asked you something recently. They said, how was your holiday? And your response was?
Family.
Explain that.
Well, my last name is Cargill. There's no remaining family with Cargill. I have a niece and a nephew that I value more than life itself. And to take the time, find the time, make the time to spend time with family refills your soul. And my niece and my nephew and the connected family around it refill my soul. Mm. I've lost a lot. I've lost my dad, my brother, my sister, my mom. So with those losses, it makes you appreciate what you still have.
You share with me the company, and then we was talking about generation. And you looked up at the thing. You said, "Hey, Dre, what's that?" And I said, "Those are trophies." He said, and I explained to you the reason why all of the other things was discarded. You created a great company.
Thank you.
What's your end game with the company as it relates to family? Because you brought this up when you came in and you looked at the stuff, and we talked about that our kids may not want to follow in these footsteps or leave or work in the legacy that we're leaving behind. Do you ever think about that? And then, so what's your take on that?
Wow, that's an awesome question, Andre. I'm less concerned whether my kids or my family or anybody else wants to pick up my mantra and keep walking and keep building. I'm more about setting an example of who we should be as people. I want to help people understand that, as my company name is, Finite Phoenix, phoenix being a revival, a circular, you can burn the bird so many times, and the earth is going to run out of finite resources. That's where the company name came from. And so if I can set an example for anybody in my circle to say, this is, we have to raise awareness, we have to educate and understand our world, we're burning it up much faster, and I want to leave a world better than I got it.
Isn't that what we all should be doing? Let's get real.
I would hope so, but some people appreciate burning up the earth. They don't think about that all that wasted food as being a resource. They don't think of that empty water bottle as being a resource. And so, what can I do to put a less of a footprint on the earth and maybe give a little bit back to the earth? And that's where Finite Phoenix was born. I was working for a company before Finite Phoenix was born that managed all the spoiled goods from the beverage industry in Michigan. And so if Budweiser puts Bud Light on the shelf, it's going to go bad. And once it goes bad, what do you do with it? Because you can't recycle it with the beer in it. So you have to separate the container from the contents. And that's what our company did for all the beer wholesalers and pop wholesalers in Michigan. So whether it's Coke, Pepsi, Budweiser, Miller, we took care of it all. We did 1.2 million gallons in that location, and we had 2 locations in Michigan. But I kept saying to them, well, beer goes bad in 6 months, and water goes bad in a year. Pop goes bad somewhere in between, but milk goes bad every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Can we expand and look into growing it's called brand protection, because they don't want a bad beer on the shelf or a bad pop on the shelf. So can we grow it? And they just kept fighting me. I spent a good year and a half developing a business plan, and then just got shut down and said, you know what? There is space in this world for this operation. So I started Finite Phoenix. I continued to work for this company for a year, burn their money rather than mine.
Right.
And looked into what happens with food, beverages, and anything that expires.
Right.
How could I manage that and monetize it?
And you did it.
I'm working on it. I don't think I've got it down pat, but what I did was I found a technology that is very uncommon in the U.S., but very common in the U.K., and that is called aerobic composting.
What is that?
So aerobic composting is the management of food waste at the site of creation. So as close to the kitchen as you can. And all you do is there's 3 different ways that the U.S. handles food waste right now. One of them is the majority of the way. 95% of our food goes right to the landfill, creating dangerous climate-changing chemicals like methane. 2, you can have a cart that you just throw it in, and once a week somebody picks it up. But that draws a lot of rodents and flies and stinky. And once a food waste program is closed because of somebody complained about the smell, it's not coming back.
Right.
And the 3rd way is to manage it at the site of production. Think about a 50-pound box of lettuce. 10 pounds of that box of lettuce, nobody ever sees. It's the cuttings, it's the trimmings. So, and that takes out of your profit. So I can put a machine in any site, large or small. I can manage from 2 pounds to 6,000 pounds a day of waste.
But not just any kind of waste. You're talking about organic waste, both paper, food, no plastics, things that you can actually re-put back into the soil, and what we talked about, like a phoenix, grow something else.
Absolutely. And it all creates that circular economy in creating a system where instead of this going, I call it, let's feed people first, because we have a lot of hungry people. Let's feed animals second, and let's not feed the landfill. And if we can feed people first, that's the most important, right? And I have there's a facility in Michigan that produces 20,000 pounds of waste a day, of food waste. Most of that could go feed people. Why aren't we doing that first? And then second of all, we can take what can't be eaten by a person and we can feed livestock with it.
Right.
Whether it's pigs or cows or chickens, you can do it that way.
Well, not only that, you're creating a way, what we talked about, being self-sufficient and learning the old traditions that we learned in the what we call the Reconstruction of America. Learning how to plant, learning how to take material and put it back in the earth and feed not only livestock, but let's get real, feeding ourselves. We should not be, it's so funny, in this country, in any country, we should not have a hunger problem with technology like you just said. So why do you think we have a still borderline issue with feeding the needy when there's machines and technology like what you have with the Phoenix?
I don't have an answer for that. I seriously don't. I mean, there should not be hungry people in the U.S. If we throw away 30 to 40% of our food that we grow, why isn't that go? And the only reason most of that is thrown out is a misunderstanding of expiration dates.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have the perfect cauliflower. If it's got a shade a little purple to it or a little bit of green to it, nobody will take that. We're so up to perfect fruit. That's why there's a business called Ugly Fruits and Vegetables, right?
It is?
They deliver stuff that just doesn't look quite right,
Mm-hmm.
and they sell it. Why is that industry available? Because we're so picky about the end look of our apples and our end look of our cauliflower. And we'd rather ship it from Argentina to the U.S. rather than growing it here. And that pressure is even growing with our current administration. We don't have a way to manage collecting our food from the fields, right? We're losing those folks that will do that. So there's more waste than ever being left in the field. And there's different governmental rules and regulations that cause this. The whole food system has to be rethought. If I'm going to buy asparagus in February,
Right.
that is not grown in the U.S.
Right.
That is grown in South America and probably traveled 2,500 to 3,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
We need that to be local. We need that to be close by, and we need to reduce waste.
I think more people now are becoming, should I call it, environmental friendly by doing what you're saying, by taking the materials and putting it back into their own pockets, meaning their own land. But I'm thinking the way to help solve the problem, at least one of them would be, instead of people always buying houses, maybe buy a house with some land and take that recyclable material, put it in maybe a 12 by 12 area and grow my own lettuce, my own peppers, my own tomatoes.
That's what I do, Beer.
Really?
That's what I do, Andre.
How much land you got? I know you got some land,
I
dog.
have 30 acres, and I feed, I have alfalfa, I have my garden, I have probably
But you feed
900.
other people who need to be fed with that land too as well.
I primarily use it for my own self, and friends and stuff like that. So, I have my fruit trees and I have all that stuff that just makes me a little bit more, I could take care of myself.
I think that's what we all need to learn how to do, is take care of ourselves.
Well, I think if you learn how to take care of yourself and you use the land, you give back to the land.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, all we're doing is taking. That's all. It's only a one-way street. We need to make that and I'm in Carmel, Indiana, so a roundabout,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The home of every roundabout I've ever
The
seen.
most roundabouts in the country is right here,
right.
baby.
So let's think about that.
Yeah.
That's driving around in circles, and thinking about a circular economy. For everything you take, you got to give, and we don't do that right now. We're a very taking society.
How is your company faring with corporate America Corporate America don't like what you're talking about. Let's get real.
I disagree. We just one of the companies I represent just made an agreement with Amazon.
Really?
They don't get much bigger than that in Universal Studios. We just installed a machine at Newark Airport.
So they understand your mission now. So I stand corrected on that.
Well, my mission is saving the earth. Their mission is saving their bottom line. And if you're throwing trash away every day, when it could make a valued product for you that could offset another cost. Think about a casino. The one I'm thinking about produces about 3,000 to 4,000 pounds of food waste a day. But yet they buy petroleum-based fertilizers to make everything look pretty and valuable. Why not use that food
to make your own fertilizer?
Stop buying fertilizer, and then stop throwing it away in the trash. So what did you just do? You increased your bottom line. You decreased expenses to your bottom line by not throwing it out, and you decreased your expenses to your bottom line to buying fertilizer because you're creating your own.
Let's talk about the different type of machines. We was talking yesterday, and I said, well, what's the bottom cost? If I want this in my house, which I saw the machine, you showed me the videos and stuff, and I was just like blown away. How long does it take? Let's start with the household machine, because that's basically much what we need to get people to do, to start on site in the home. You got merchandise here. You got not plastic, but you got cardboard. You got food waste. You got everything. How much is one of these cost for the average home? How long would it last? I know it basically depends on usage, but tell the viewers a bit about that part.
Sure. So I represent two companies. One of them is the only company I am aware of that manages both commercial and residential products. So they manage a machine that can manage home use of maybe 2 people, and then the second machine would probably be, the bigger machine would be 4 to 5 people. So that's 4 or 5 people in a household throwing food out every day. Those machines are about $300, $400.
That's not bad.
And they're available by subscription. They're available by lease. There's all sorts of options. They're all set up for great use. I mean, you walk up to it, it senses you're there, it opens the lid. In fact, some people name them. One of my friends named theirs Seymour, right? I just put a commercial one of that brand into a Detroit grocery store, and they call it Broman.
Really?
So they're naming them. They're having fun with it. They're in the meantime,
they're helping the environment. Yeah.
So, you can go from 2 pounds to 6,000 pounds. That's going from residential to a very large commercial operation.
How have you been received with the general public with this machine itself? Like, we know everybody in Michigan knows about it, but how widespread has it gotten so far?
In the last 2 weeks, I've gotten a lot of requests out of Ohio. I think in general, how have I been received? How are most people received with a black box technology that is better to be seen than heard? So I could describe it till the cows come home.
Yeah.
But you put your eyes on it and you see it happening, either in a video or on site. And most of the time, the difference is, I don't understand what you're talking about versus wow. So it's a technology that shows better in real life or in video than it does talking about it. Because talking about it is like, what do you mean you mix air, microbes, heat, and you stir it all up, and my apple goes away in a couple hours? How does that work? Because traditional composting, you put it in long rows, 100 yards long. It's 20 feet high and 18 feet across.
Right.
And it's months before you see true results. We're talking about you're watching it happen
in real time.
And All it is I control. I don't care if it rains. I don't care what the temperature is outside. I don't care about a whole lot of things. There's no recipe. Like in traditional composting, there's, you got to have 30% of this and 40% of this. The microbes do all that work for you, and it's nothing more than what Mother Nature does on the ground. Because if you threw a banana peel on the side of the road,
right,
the bugs are going to come take care of it first. The sun's going to break it down, and the soil's going to consume it. We just do that in real fast time.
What about, like you said, the breaking down, and this is in somebody's house? What about the bugs? What about the smell? Like, what should a person expect? And, how quickly do you need to take this out? Once the decompose takes place.
It's funny. I've been in the trash business for 35 years. I've smelled everything.
I don't want to smell.
Let's not go to what I've experienced. We don't want to do that. But I have if I've learned one thing in the years of Finite Finks as a company, my nose doesn't matter. Everybody's independent. Most people I talk to think that the odor coming from these machines smells like dark chocolate or dark bread being baked. It's a very organic smell.
Okay.
It's going to change whether what you put in it. You put macaroni and cheese or milk in it, you're going to have a little bit sour smell to it. But for the most part, it's going to smell like soil.
Really?
Your smell, in most cases, comes from dirty bins and things around it, lack of housekeeping. But the smell from these machines is very earthy.
Man, you know what I just thought about? With all of this decomposing, the only thing you're getting rid of now, to be honest, is glass and plastic.
Well, I'm hoping you're going to recycle that as well.
Yeah, well,
in a different stream.
In a different stream, yeah.
But yeah, what the idea of it is, I ran a program for a major university for a long time. And I worked really hard to get the glass and the plastic and the metal out of the waste stream.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened? The majority of what was left was food. Back 30 years ago, 25 years ago, we didn't think that food was something we still don't even have infrastructure now to do it, let alone back then. And it certainly wasn't in the forefront of our minds. If I had taken the food out, instead of taking the other materials out, I would not have had the odor problem that I had at the end. Mm. So the cardboard was soaking up all the stink. I was working for a major university, which has, 50,000 kids on campus. And so there's a lot of food waste. But it wasn't thought of that way. My industry wasn't focused on food waste, and we weren't identifying the effects of food waste 30 years ago on our climate. So if I could do my whole job backwards,
mm-hmm.
I'd have taken the food out and figured out a way to manage it, because the technology that we're talking about today is 30 and 40 years old. It was created in Sweden and has evolved and changed and become a way to monetize and change the descriptor of waste. It shouldn't be waste. It is a commodity.
Why do you think the United States is so late in understanding this technology? Or let me go back and say, we had the technology. Why is it taking so long to come to the forefront versus overseas? And we know the portions are different too. Food, when you serve food overseas versus here too. What's your take on that?
Why is the U.S. slow at taking on environmentally impactful rules and regulations? I think it's because we've got a lot of place to put land. We got a lot of land, and we can bury a lot of stuff before it becomes a problem. And
we probably already done it. We just don't know about it.
We've got landfills all over the place. And Earth Day was in the mid-'70s. And what it did for my state was it created an excessive amount of landfill availability space. So we had landfill space that needed to be filled. Well, Michigan receives 28% of its trash comes from Toronto or Ohio or the East Coast because we're
Really?
so cheap, because we had so much vacant land that we built so many oversized landfills that could receive trash for the next 30 to 100 years. And so we're cheap. So our everybody ships trash to us in our beautiful state, surrounded by water. We receive Canadian trash.
I had no idea.
So I think trash has become cheap in the U.S., and therefore we don't have to think about the environmental impacts of it.
How long does it take trash in general to decompose in a landfill?
It doesn't. It just keeps stacking up.
Really?
You're going to see in Michigan, we have a yard waste ban. So grass, leaves, and twigs aren't allowed in our landfill. What's left in there? Plastic's not going to go away. And that's the majority of what we throw away. 97% of all plastic created has not been recycled. We need a stronger method to manage our waste, and we need to be more aware of what we create.
This is my question to you. What's your why with this? You've tackled a lot of major things in your life, corporations, but more importantly here, the people that didn't believe in you. Just imagine what they think now, because all you was trying to do was add a little bit more value to something that was already there, to elevate it to a new evolution. But somehow or another, you took it upon yourself to go and do it on your own, and look where you're at now. What's your why?
Andre, I had an experience when I was rather young in the industry. As you said, I come from Michigan, and we had a major governmental municipality mismanagement. It's now called the Flint water crisis.
What?
The Flint water crisis.
Oh, okay.
Where some bad decisions were made, put a lot of citizens in harm with bad quality water. And the answer was send them a whole bunch of bottled water. So these people were taking showers, taking baths, and drinking and cooking with bottled water in a city that did not have a recycling program. So you're talking about, imagine this, every fire station in the city of Flint was now a water distribution site. So you'd pull up there and you'd get a case or two of 16-ounce water bottles, and that's what you survived on. Was the government's answer. I saw an opportunity and a need. I said, all right, I talked my CEO into giving me a pretty much blank check and going into the city and creating a water bottle recycling program. And here's where your question really digs in, because my entire community spoke to me and said, those people aren't going to recycle. What do you mean, those people? Who's those people? Those people in Flint. You know, those people. They don't care about that. I said, I beg to differ. I think we try it, because if we don't, tens of millions of water bottles. I mean, the Flint water crisis went on for years, right? Probably not as, close to home and heart for you as it is for a Michigander. But I went in there and I set up recycling programs at every one of those fire stations. And everybody was like, you're crazy. And I all of a sudden, the next thing you know, General Motors is knocking on my door because they have Flint production sites, and they're going, hey, do you think we could create car parts out of all these plastic bottles that we're recovering? And all of a sudden, my owner, who had told me, do not make this public, keep this all under wraps. And I've got the largest car manufacturer knocking on my door going, wow, what you're doing is pretty impressive. We want part of it. And all I could do is like look back at my community going, I told you so. I told you if you gave the opportunity to anybody to do the right thing, they will do it. And it worked. I'm very, very proud of that effort because there was not very many people that were supportive of me doing that. I was kind of surprised that my CEO gave me the money that he did.
Why do you think he did?
Because I'm very passionate and I sell my business plan pretty damn well.
I'm a firm believer of that. You know that, right?
So, I mean, it's, I'm very passionate about what I do. So when I do something, I don't do it half. I do it all on. And I knew my costs and I knew the potential of it. What I didn't know is the waking giants that I would create, like General Motors, that wanted to all of a sudden do a whole documentary in our facility and made my CEO look really, really good.
That's what happened?
Yes.
Let's go back to your baby, the Phoenix. What's your end game with this? What do you want to see happen with this new evolution of who you are and new technology? Well, really not new technology. Let's call it new technology to the people that didn't know that it existed.
Sure. I think my end game is this. The food waste industry is, I think, very well developed to help feed people. What we don't have is after that step, so feeding animals and not feeding the landfill.
Mm-hmm.
If you have, Michigan has 9.6 million people. Each person produces about 6 pounds a day. You do the math. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How do we capture that material? And I would say starting with the low-hanging fruit, don't try the most difficult stuff. But how do we convince people, because it's a bit gross, right? Your food sits on a counter and in a pail and you have to take it out to your compost pile. Not everybody can do that in an apartment.
Right.
So how do we remove the barriers of resistance, meaning I call it the yuck factor? How do we make it fun? You use a machine and you put a name on it, like Bro Man.
Yeah.
So lower the barriers, give people more options to manage food waste in a simple and easy way to do it, and then help people understand the value of regenerating our own soil with your own food waste. I think that's, whether you live in an apartment and you can put this completed soil in a plant in your garden, in your apartment, or whether you live on 30 acres and you're going to apply it to a field.
It's really a no-brainer.
It's just, well, Andre, it's front of mind for me, but it's not front of mind for the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
This is what I believe in. My property had 7 trees on it when I got there, and now it has 600.
Get that mic closer so they can understand you.
Now it has 600. It's something I believe in, and I'd like to share with the rest of the world that there's ways that we can make our place, leave our place better than we got it. And I think that that's the end goal of Finite Phoenix. Is this may not be the solution for everybody.
It's a start,
but it is another tool in our toolbox.
Yeah.
To create a circular economy and rethink the naming of waste as waste instead of as a commodity.
And energy.
And energy, sure.
I think we was talking about this too. I clearly forgot that the universe gives us everything we need. Everything. You just a prime example and showed exactly how we can take raw material, convert it into usable material, and fuel our bodies as human beings. But now they even got we can just pull water out of the air, man. What do you think about that?
The growth in with technology is changing everything. I mean, yeah. I was just reading an article of some forever chemicals that we only 2 or 3 years ago we thought were impossible to get rid of. There's equipment to clean that out of our water and our soil. Technology is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all personal awareness. I'm a very curious person, so when I hear things like that, or I watch them do that in sub-Saharan Africa, which is where it's really popular. It just blows my mind. Of all the things I don't know,
It blows my mind of all the things that we have at our disposal. That if people just take the time to research, that is out there. Like, I didn't even know that machine even exists. I've seen people go out and put material in those wheelbarrow things, and you have to sit for days and days. Now, this can be done in a matter of, minutes?
hours. I think if you treat our equipment as your stomach, and you feed it breakfast, lunch, and dinner with about 6 hours in between, you'll never see much of anything that isn't completely digested. So a chicken bone will look like it's sat out in the desert. It won't be completely gone, but it will be picked clean of any debris on it, and eventually it will break down. Mother Nature created a lot of tough products. A simple pineapple is a really tough hide to eat up, so it takes a little time. Corn on the cob. But
I saw that.
But I can throw a steak in there and it'd be gone in 6 hours. A steak.
What's the average time for something like that? You said 6 hours for like a steak. What are people looking at? We're talking about the average time to decompose a lot of material.
I would go back to 24 hours. I think you need the time to completely, because there's a difference between out of sight and physically gone. So, compostable products take a little bit longer to polish off, but avocado pits are tough. But most everything disappears in a matter of moments.
Really?
It's really fascinating to watch this process happen, and to know that all these, people might think that I'm putting some crazy microbe into these machines that are actually, not good for the environment once they get out. But that's not true. We're just taking the same thing that's in the soil. We're isolating it. We're overpopulating it in a small area. And I liken it to light switches. So if there's over 100 different microbes in this machine, there's 100 light switches. I throw in a steak, the protein microbes start multiplying and consuming. If I throw in a cardboard, the microbes responsible for eating cardboard wake up and go, oh, that's my job. There's even a microbe in there that eats ammonia, because ammonia is what causes our odors. So all it does is eat microbes.
I think would be cool. My mind is like going, wow. If the machine had a window that you can watch the timeline of all of this taking place, I think that
we've done it with a GoPro. It's just a little foggy in there because there's a lot of, there's the machine creates its own heat.
Oh, really? Okay.
But the microbes create even more heat. So just their consumption and their multiplication adds a lot of heat to the machine. So the machine is supplying supplemental heat. The primary heat is coming from the microbes themselves and the activity that's happening in there. So it's exciting.
What about the electric bill? How much does it take to really run this machine? And what about cleaning?
So a large machine. So let's say we're going to polish off a good-sized casino would run a 4,000 pounds a day. You're going to see a cost of about equivalent to a two-person household to run a machine of that size. It's really nothing.
What about cleanup after everything is done?
There's no cleanup, because it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week cycle. So it's just constantly eating, right? So you never clean this whole thing out, because all the resident microbes are sitting in that machine right where they need to be.
Really?
And the machine empties itself, and it only empties up from a certain level to higher, and leaving all the resident stuff in the bottom where all the activity is actually happening, and it empties itself. You don't have to, there's no shoveling.
So you don't do nothing when you just.
No, I think that's what the industry would like you to think. Right. There's a little bit more involvement in it. We love to put master gardeners and people who love the earth as a responsible party to
Right.
manage the machine, they need to check on it twice a day, but you're already checking on it because you're feeding it 3 times a day, just like your stomach.
What before we wrap up, what have you learned so far with your journey with going through the different phases of life to where you're at now? Beautiful 61-year-old. You look great for your age. You still play hockey and stuff, so you're still active. But looking back at your timeline to where you're at today, what would you tell the viewers that kept you going? Because you could have easily given up numerous times.
Passion and persistence. Absolutely. I mean, I would say if only people could play in their passion and make a living out of it,
Yeah.
it makes it so much easier, and persistence, don't give up.
Yeah.
I think passion and persistence is the way to go through life. You should be passionate about other people. You should be passionate about the planet. You should be passionate about your body. My mom would tell you, she passed away at 99 years old. My mom would tell you, never stop moving.
Wow.
When you're moving, you die. You quit moving, you die. So I learned a lot from my mom to be passionate about what I do. And sometimes you get laughed at for being a little too connected to the issue.
Right.
Too much of a front of a mind. I don't care. I want to be there. I want to make a difference. I want my great-grandchildren to be able to consume healthy, good products in a safe environment.
How can the viewers reach out to you and know more about the Phoenix?
Check me out. I'm just starting to grow a social media profile, and I'm 61. Do I belong on TikTok? I'm not sure I do.
Yeah, you do.
But I'm trying. So check me out on YouTube. I'm considered Mr. Finite Phoenix. That's FINITE and the city Phoenix.com. I'm trying to put this word out, right?
Yeah.
And so I represent 2 companies that one's a Korean-made company and one's an Indian-made company. And I think they do really good products.
Right.
And I look forward to a continued partnership with them and growing opportunities for expanding organics management.
You know what? Thank you so much, Roger, for taking time to come on the show. We definitely going to do our part to make sure we spread the message out. Viewers, make sure you subscribe, like, share, click that button. All it takes is one click to make a difference in somebody's life as well as your own. Make sure you get one of these machines because we need to do our part, especially going into 2026, to understand that we need to make sure we take care of this planet that we live on. And not only by using this product are you going to help do that, but you're going to do so much more by being able to grow your own food. And it just seems like the right thing to do. And I think in 2026, we need to start looking at ourselves and ask ourselves the key question: what are we going to do in 26? What are you going to do in 2026 to change your environmental blueprint on this planet? Ladies and gentlemen, say it with me, Roger. This has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.